Hopefully the camera. Focus. Come on, this is the money shot right here, bro.
Little bit of this action,
Yeah. Like, what are you doing, man? I think it's because I'm in the dark. Okay, hold on. Wait, there we go. Cool. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, my dear audience, the cross core. This is episode 23 of the Anatomy Podcast. It is currently May the 4th, and we got here with us Mr. Joey Hancock and Gryffyn from Null Existence. This is a project that indirectly I've supported before with their last vocalist, Greg Gilbert. And now that things have updated, you're seeing it here first as soon as this is uploaded. Welcome, Gryffyn, to say the least, even though I'm not a part of the band. And I am super excited to be telling the story of this project as it embarks on its next step, its first full-length record, which should be fucking absolutely amazing. So, as you guys know, we have a formula that we kind of stick to, but it's more comfortable when we just kind of go off the rails eventually. And, that's just organic conversation for you. But we will have two different parts to this session. We will have the first half, which is talking about the people, telling their story, how they got into being a musician, and all the juicy details. And then we have the second half of the podcast, which if you've watched our previous 22 episodes now, which is crazy, we ask all the really, really like golden questions about the band as if it were an entity itself, collectively being spoken for by the band members. The questions like, why is the band named Null Existence? Or what was the creative process? Excluding lyrical content for what was the Gehenna Complex. Like, we'll be getting into all that where we can. But first off, gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you inviting us on here, man. It feels really good. And so really stoked to kind of go everything with you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. How about you, Joey? How you doing?
I'm excited to be on here, but to be honest, I'm extremely tired, and I think I'm getting slightly sick.
Oh, fun. That's always fun. You said earlier when we were like texting and stuff that you're having to do like remodeling and stuff. So are you just having to rearrange a whole bunch of different shit right now?
No, actually, my wife and I and my two daughters, to save up money to buy a house, we moved back in with my parents, and also,
Ooh.
I work in construction, so they've lived here 25 years, so I moved in to kind of help like fix the house up to get it ready to go on the market. We're trying to buy like a shit ton of property,
right?
And then I work as an electrician, so I'm like all over the state. So I get home super late, and then like doing drywall and painting and flooring and like all this crazy subflooring and stuff. So it's been an exhausting couple of months, honestly.
I can only imagine, man. And I can only hope that starts to kind of calm down over time. But I mean, obviously you're more aware of your world than I am. So, I mean, it's probably going to be an endless grind, and I can only pray for you, brother. I can only hope that it calms down eventually and that the payoff will be absolutely worth it. But to say the least, we're going to be diving directly, just head first, even if it's just shallow water, people. Like, there are no diving warnings here. We are going head first, probably knocking our head open, but with that, revealing so much. And that's a kind of fucking morbid statement, but it works. So that being said, we are first going to ask Joey. We are going to go ahead and ask him all of like the basic questions, like basically how did he get into music? Because we know you're a multi-instrumentalist, so you are the main mind behind what is Null Existence so far. You do guitar, you do bass, you program drums. So if anything, give us a summary and like tell us about how you got into doing all of that.
Oh man. So the short story would be I have a deep rooted passionate love for music, especially heavy music. It was rooted into me from a child. My dad loves the most brutal shit ever. You know, there's videos of me at 3 years old sitting on his lap listening to like really early Sepultura and Pungent Stench and stuff. And so he always, I grew up with music with him, you know, and I started playing guitar at 12, and they were, you know, really pushed me to, you know, play this stuff. And you know, I don't know, I was only ever in one band, and you know, I didn't really get along with the members and stuff. So I finally was like, I just kind of want to write my own stuff, you know, which took quite a long time. But I don't know. I like making music, so I wanted to figure out how to play the other instruments and program things and whatnot, which I'm all still very much learning, you know. But I don't know. I find a deep serenity in it. You know, my life's pretty crazy and busy, but you know, it's just such a fantastic release being able to, you know, sit here and play this stuff and kind of see it come to life.
Exactly.
You know, something to be proud of, you know. And it might not be the best stuff in the world, but you know, it's, you know, I love doing it, and I like sharing it with people.
Yeah. And I mean, either way, for those of you who have had the chance to listen to the Gehenna Complex, like, we got some pretty complex, nasty, just riffy, just very, very intense music. And to think that it is all made by Mr. Joey here, except for what was the lyrical content and the vocal content on the previous EP, like, he is an absolute genius, I would say, alongside people that we've had on the podcast before, like Alex Sevenier and even Agung from Makluk. Like, there are plenty of people in the world, including myself, technically, because I'm going to be working with Alex here pretty soon for my own project. Like, finding musicians is becoming harder and harder in the world for whatever reason, despite how interconnected all the Facebook communities, all the social medias are becoming. Like, we end up seeing that instead of it being easier to find musicians, it's like, okay, now you're having to find a guitarist or a bassist or a drummer who wants to play brutal slamming death metal or slam or grindcore or deathcore. Because I mean, first of all, I would think music theory and all that's really where it comes in, is people who are educated in those fields. But other than that, it's like it just becomes so difficult to find people. So by all means, all of my admiration and respect to you for deciding to take on all of the instrumental parts by yourself, because I know I could fucking do that. I might be doing bass parts for my own project in the future, but I can only imagine how much time it did take, whether months, years, or even half a decade, closer to a decade. There's so much shit that goes into making music. So again, all my admiration and respect to Mr. Hancock here. And if anything, you mentioned that from a very young age, your dad was getting you to like early Sepultura and plenty of other iconic heavy bands. So I would also want to ask, like, maybe what is the first instrument that you ended up getting into that helped you, well, get on the road, the path to being all the instrumental parts for what is Null Existence currently?
Oh, dude, 100% guitar. I mean, at no bones about it, I'm a guitar player. I mean, I can mess around and make it by with these other instruments, but guitar is where it's at. My dad had like 3 or 4 guitars growing up, and he had this old Washburn 6-string, and he let me fuck around on it. I really liked it. And then for my 13th birthday, they got me this Ibanez RG that I really wanted. And once I got that, I completely dove into it. I was homeschooled my whole life, so it was not uncommon for me to play guitar 8 to 9 hours a day, just sitting in my room, just nonstop playing guitar until I was 17. But my grandmother had a piano, and I always liked playing around on it. I actually used a piano and then a little plug-in guitar tuner to teach myself how to find the notes in music, you know, your A through F before it repeats again. And I found, okay, there's only 12 notes in music before it just repeats in a different octave, you know, and I was able to kind of use that and translate it to anything with strings, you know, and it just kind of, it was cool to kind of figure that out, you know, because I never did any lessons. I can't read music. I know almost nothing about musical theory. But being able to train, being able to train my ear to pick up notes and stuff was a really cool, fascinating thing for me as a young teenager. And so I just wanted to explore it more and more and more, you know. So then I got more guitars, and then I got a 6-string bass, and then a mandolin, you know, and playing cellos and stuff, which I'm not very good at, but being able to try and translate what I knew from other instruments and implement it onto another stringed instrument was a really cool experience, you know.
No, I can only imagine. And to think that what you're talking about is basically you did not go to school or get an actual like education, get into a class for music theory, but you utilized your instincts as someone who has musical background, whether it be, you know, again, educational or not, just people in your family, including your grandmother and your father who are passionate about music. You basically utilized that knowledge, pressed it forward, and almost learned music theory on your own. Like, even if it's just the building blocks for it, just understanding that there are only 12 notes in music, period, and there's just different octaves for that. That's a big step. I know that me, myself, in high school, I was incredibly intimidated by even trying to get into music theory. I remember the first day, I'm like, wait, this isn't a guitar class? They're like, no, this is music theory. I'm like, what the hell is this? And they just had me go next door to Guitar 2 or something, and that was the end of it. I did not look back, because I was just like, dude, I just want to play these songs on nylon string guitars and manage to scrape by, do another band class or whatever, and just be on my way. So by all means and measures, like, even I have like a little bit of guitar in me. I'm wanting to do bass because I'm a big bass head. So whether bass or drums, like, that shit sounds so much fun. But yeah, like, I can only imagine that that's all you really needed to get started. And you also mentioned that whether, you know, you think you're good at playing it or not, you also know cello. You also can play violin, right? A little bit.
Violin, viola, banjo, you know, anything with strings. You know, I might not be able to rip on them like, you know, people have been playing for a long time, because every instrument, you know, it feels different. There's a certain finesse to, you know, playing that instrument, and if you're practicing them every day, you know, but being able to, you know, implement, you know, okay, this is looked at as a fret. This is going to, you know, be in a key, you know, and messing around with it, you know.
Right. No, that's incredible. That's actually really cool. And I'll definitely have to ask the question later, but I have a question now following that. So that should be pretty interesting. But kind of moving forward and digging a little bit more under your background as far as like getting into music and really plugging into what is now your instrumental contributions to Null Existence. Early on, did you have any big guitar players, bassists, drummers, musical enthusiasts, vocalists even, that really helped you get into writing all the instrumentals that you did? Or was it a wide variety of different musicians and artists?
Yeah. I mean, so a lot of guitar players, they have guitar players that they love. You know, bassists have bassists that they love, and other instruments as well. But, you know, like I enjoyed listening to heavy music with my dad, but my dad taught me how to view the beauty in heavy music. It's not just aggressive, you know, screaming. You know, there's a beauty to the creation of this stuff, and so he taught me how to appreciate all aspects of the music. You know what I mean? From vocals to any instrument that is involved. So there's, you know, I can't play drums, you know, but I love George Clias. I think is how you say his last name, from Nile, and then the drummer who was on Necrophagous Epitaph record, who also did some work with the Faceless. You know, I love his style of drumming. You know, I'm super bad with names, but I can always get the bands down. But, you know, the first time I heard Viremia and the 10-string bass, you know, I was like,
wait, isn't Viremia one of Mark Garrett's projects?
That it is.
I'm not sure. I know Mark Kardashev is the vocalist.
Yeah, no, that's who I'm talking about. Mark Garrett. That's his real name. But like Mark Kardashev, Kardashev Academy, like those are a couple of the names he goes by. But
okay, yeah, he is definitely the vocalist of Viremia currently.
that's
And I
fucking
mean,
cool.
I have followed Viremia since 2008. You know,
Ooh.
I've even got one of their original EP shirts that, it's back when I was little, so it's like a men's small, but I'll keep it forever. I've had it for like 13 years, you know what I mean? Because it's, I think it's so cool, but
Right.
things like that, finding a band and being able to make a connection with them and follow it for years.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's hard for me to say I had specific people that I looked up to musically as much as any music that I loved. I followed and was inspired by it. And and there's lots of things that I've been inspired by that outside of heavy music as well.
Right.
When you love music, you can find inspiration in anything, and that's kind of why I feel like it's helped me a bit. Null Existence, it's a deathcore band, but I try and there's things that are implemented that are a little different than you would hear in standard, deathcore, trying to create atmospheres and ambiances within the music outside of it just being, ridiculously heavy or whatever. A lot of that stuff has come from inspiration of country music and flamenco and EDM, old school rock, anything that gets the noggin moving.
Exactly. No, I'm with you on that. That makes complete sense. And like, honestly, that could probably be the best answer that I've had to that question, is like not just isolating to any one guitarist or one bassist or one drummer or one vocalist, but like just a wide variety of different bands that you've been inspired by. Now, I can only imagine from what we've understood so far and what we've learned so far that your father had a massive impact on like the musicians and artists that you got into. So could you definitely say that he was like the one that kind of definitely got you into that music world, but he was definitely the one that inspired you to get into the various forms of music and learn all of the spectrums that now?
Absolutely. And he still is today.
Yeah.
A huge inspiration to me in that sense of finding new things and still being able to find new inspirations for things. Him and I still, I'm approaching 30, life's crazy and stuff, but we still find time to sit down together and show each other, new songs that we found, and we'll just sit there in silence and listen to them together. And then when we're done, we'll take parts of the songs that we liked or noticed and, share them with each other.
Mm-hmm.
For all types of music, and it's like a really special thing that still takes place. So I would definitely say always pushed me to find all the spectrums of music.
No, that's amazing. I really like that. And to be honest, I wish I could do that with my old man, but he's more or less like Guns N' Roses, The Grateful Dead, and maybe Metallica, and that's it. Like no matter. Yeah. Oh, that's your mom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like even showing him Japanese rock and Japanese pop music that like are usually they're like, oh, it's that anime intro or whatever. Like I have a whole playlist of that, and I tried to show it to him, and he was just like very discouraged. So hell yeah. Props to your old man for being able to like enjoy music with you on that level, because I definitely wish I had that, but it was meant to be the way it was. So if anything, being that you are a multi-instrumentalist and you contribute as much as you do to Null Existence, are there, if you could do me a favor, name the top 5 records that you would say either like helped you continue moving, or that you just absolutely can listen to over and over again. Records maybe by Viremia, anything like that just really, really helped you get into the swing of all of that.
Oh, dude, 100%, no questions asked. Sheol by Shrine of Malice.
Yes.
I've listened to that album more than anything in my entire life, and if it wasn't for that record, I would not be making music again. That record is why I decided to pick up guitar and start playing again after taking a 7-year break from making any music at all.
That's actually really badass to hear. Not that I'm in Shrine of Malice, but like, no, that's awesome. And I mean, I think we all know in the call here, like they're coming back strong later this year, and I am so fucking hyped for it, dude. Oberth is coming in strong, baby.
Yeah, I absolutely can't wait. I mean, that band, the EP as well. They're Malice EP, but Shoal was like musically life changing for me. I had never heard music so good.
I think it was for everybody in the scene, and like if it wasn't for what happened, I think that album might even be like in another timeline. This is a hypothetical. In another timeline, the level that Lorna Shore is currently at, I think Shrine of Malice is at that level somewhere else in the cosmos. Just like same exact band, same lineup, but literally they blew up. They cracked open TikTok. You know what I mean? Because Lorna Shore has an undeniable reach now, and they've helped grow the community so much more than it was before. But I think if it wasn't for what happened, I think Shrine of Malice would definitely be at that level. And I mean, shout out to the lads. By all means, I hope that we interview in the future on the podcast, because that would be super fucking cool. And yeah, all the love and support from all of the bands that I've had on the podcast so far. And that is not a bluff. Like, we all love you. We are all excited for you to come back. But without milking that name too much and just giving them a good old grapefruit technique, you know what I mean? If anything, there's Sheol. Are there any other records you would name off the top of your head that have really influenced you? Or like, would Sheol just be number one? It's like indescribable how influential it was for you. Like, let's try to dig it a little bit more in for sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Sheol's up there, but Planetary Duality by the Faceless was a huge one for me.
Okay.
I could never write like Michael Keane, but that album was huge for me as a guitar player. It was cool to hear music that was made so well and so well executed.
Right.
I've listened to that record so many times in my life. And then what might be surprising, actually the band Alter Bridge.
Alter Bridge, okay.
Yeah, which is Creed with Miles Kennedy singing, and they're outside of like death metal, I guess they'd probably be my biggest inspiration musically. Everything all together, every single album they've ever put out has been fantastic. Song 1 through song 13, they're all 13, 14 songs, long, and they've never put out anything bad, and they're, just to know that musicians can make music for 20 years like that and just continuously put out fucking heat is super inspiring to me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So we got Sheol so far. We have you said Alter Bridge, right? Alter Bridge, sick. I'm glad I remembered that name. And then we got a couple others for sure. So yeah, no, that's a great start. If anything, I'm sure that there is such an intense variety of different records, EPs, even singles, like standalone singles, because we all got that guilty pleasure of this is like the best song on the record. The rest of the album can shoo or something. Who knows? But if anything, is there a third EP or album that you would throw out into the ether that has like helped Null Existence forge into what it is?
Honestly, was it Reclaimer by Shadow of Intent? That was another record that, I heard it, I think it was The Horror Within. I heard that and was just blown away. That was right around the same time where I was starting to kind of pick guitar back up again.
Right.
And kind of realized like, okay, I've been out of the deathcore game a long time. Is this the kind of stuff I've been missing? Like, is this what we've evolved to? This is fucking incredible, and I just listened to that record on repeat for like 6-7 months. No,
that's awesome. And I definitely say that when it comes to records like that, I think Sheol happens to be like one of the only ones I've been able to repeat as much as I have. But ladies and gentlemen, keep an ear out. Me, Alec Maleficus from Slaughter the False Prophet, and Devin Duarte plan to do a cover of The Catacombs eventually, which is off that same record. I'll basically be doing Ben Durr's part, Alec Maleficus will be doing, let's see, you'll be doing Jason's part, and then Devin will be doing Dickie Allen's part. But that should be really fun. Keep an eye out for that. Keep an ear out for that. Should be one of the coolest collaborations I've done with other vocalists in the scene, period. And one of the first ones at that. But thank you, Mr. Joey Hancock, for providing us a pretty good back of the book summary of what we got going on, what we should be knowing about you, your contributions to this very, very young, but very energetic and very lively deathcore project that is, pardon me, Null Existence. So now, drum roll, we learn the story of Null Existence's new vocalist. And obviously, by the time this is uploaded, that's when these gentlemen will be giving me the green light to upload it in the first place. And we do indeed have 10 minutes. So basically, take your time, do a very, very elementary level. That's like the best way I can describe it. Introduction of yourself, what your name is, where you grew up, and like a little bit about your musical background. And we will be taking it into part 2 of the Anatomy Podcast, episode 23.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sean, again for inviting me on. Yeah, my name is Gryffyn Jernigan. I only have one active project right now, which we're at the time of filming. We're actually right about to release our first single, Mortem Obscurum, and the single is The Unsung Monarch.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been doing vocals since I was probably about like 17, I'd say, is when I kind of started taking it seriously. I'm 24 now, so it's been about 7 years.
Right.
I primarily, when I got started, I kind of got started, I think, how everyone else did. Like we kind of got turned on to those 1 or 2 songs that were a little bit heavier, and then we were kind of intrigued by, the screaming vocal, and then try to imitate it pretty much.
Yes.
And for me, I started off in kind of like the crabcore kind of area, like Attack, Asking Alexandria.
Yeah, there we go.
Emotionless in White. Yeah,
dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, I started off. Abigail was actually the first song I listened to by them, and and Chris's like high screams. I thought that was super cool. It was very like it gave me like unhuman sort of vibes. I was very intrigued, and I wanted to. I loved like that like little like spurt of primal emotion that made me feel, and I wanted to be the herald of that a little bit. So yeah, I pretty much started listening. I think I was about 7th or 8th grade, about the time where I first heard. I think it was the final episode by Asking, Stickly, and then Abigail by Motionless in White. So that was like my little introduction. I kind of like started messing around doing like really terrible like little burpy gutturals and stuff like that. Not around anyone else, of course, because I was a really shy kid, and I'm more like to myself a little bit still, but I mean I'm a lot more comfortable with it now in front of people, and I've played a couple of live shows with a couple of live bands here in town, here in Spokane, Washington before, but it was for a short period of time, so I don't have like the extensive live history, but we'll probably get there at some point.
Yes.
And I know that Null Existence is something that I do want to do something live eventually.
Yes.
Because both me and Joey both live in the same state, and yeah, I've been going through some career changes too, so my life's been a little hectic. So, or else I would probably take a little bit of time and go actually film some content out there with Joey.
Right.
But as of right now, it's not really realistic with either of our schedules, considering he's moving, getting his house onto the market. He has a whole family to wrangle in. I mean, I have 7 animals and a wife, and I also do mortgage lending too. So and I'm shy of a year in there, so it's been a whole weird mess of stuff. But I think that here in the next year or so, things will kind of even out a little bit, and we can film content for upcoming music, or even maybe like an upcoming single or something like that. Because the first one, I know that we're going to be kind of just doing like live playthrough sort of ordeal with it. Just filming separately remotely, and then kind of winging the rest of it.
Yes.
Any band wants to do a music video if they can, but it's not always available, so we'll just figure something out. But
no, I'm sure you guys will.
Yeah, I hope so too. But yeah, so pretty much it's yeah, it kind of started off there. Started with metalcore. Then I listened to the Hate EP from Valer's Murder, and oh, and then I heard it was Horde with Chainsaw, and then the Hate EP. So like Doom for Birth and all that, and then so
that was so good.
Dude, yeah, no. When I heard that, it was so angry and so I don't know what the word is. It was just super. I don't know, like the bass spectrum of everything, like the drums, it just blew me away. Like how heavy it was.
Like it.
Yeah, I didn't know that drums could sound like literal guns going off, and that was something that I was super attracted to. Like the AK, double kick snare, not a snare, but kick drum. Sorry. Yeah, it was that blew me away. And then I think Horde with Chainsaw was actually like my first song that I tried to go through like start to beginning. And of course, like I imitated like they're really like shrill highs and stuff for a minute, and then try to sound like them, like everyone else does. And then I learned of other bands and slowly changed till I got to this point now. So
no, naturally. And I mean, with all the records that you've already mentioned and all the music you've already mentioned, that being Thy Art is Murder and fucking, I mean, shit. I remember at the beginning of my journey through metalcore and like what I would call like horror show, which basically is like Halloween rock or Halloween metal. So Motionless in White, Korn, Rob Zombie, fucking Slipknot. Because I can easily see them all doing a Halloween themed tour. Not that it's ever going to happen for whatever fucking reason, but Motionless in White definitely being one of those people, one of those bands. Asking Alexandria, I've met them now in person. They're super, super cool people. They're super funny. And I mean, technically they used to be AZ local. Now they're a lot more spread out. They've like jumped off of Sumerian Records. They basically make music independently now. Bands like that, it's like, it's really cool to hear that they had an influence on people who are now jumping onto the podcast, because most of the time before it was like Slipknot, Metallica, Pantera, like all of those starter pack metal bands, which, all the power to you and all the respect to those bands, because they indeed were the starter pack for some of us kind of slowly, gradually getting into just Cannibal Corpse or Meth Witch, whatever is your poison, pick your poison. But it's really cool to be hearing those two names on the podcast finally. So with that being said, it is like, it's amazing to have you both on, to say the least. And Gryffyn, I now have to ask, like, when and how, let's see, I'm trying to think of this the right way. What was the first, because you said Motionless in White and Abigail, you were like, okay, I really want to do the wah, wah, and all that fun stuff. So among vocalists like Chris Motionless, are there any like idolized vocalists that you are still contributing your vocal skills, vocal effort to, ones that you're like, yeah, I can sound like that, no effort. So that's kind of my whole formula. But I also do my own thing. Like, what is the mix of vocal spectrums that we got going on that helps confine and condense into what is Gryffyn for Null Existence?
Like, who are my top inspirations that I apply to my own technique in a way? Let's see. So, it's not going to surprise you to hear any of these names, but I mean, Primordial from Shadow of Intent was a super big pivotal part in terms of me listening to more like complex, like heavy music, because I kind of avoided tech death for a minute, just because I couldn't really appreciate some stuff about it, because it didn't have enough like immediate immediate satisfaction and like that wow factor that just draws attention deaf kids in. So I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff. But Shadow of Intent was one of the first bands I think that incorporated some of those elements that really drew me in. So Ben Dora is a huge inspiration to me personally.
Yes.
And even Will Ramos too. Like, I liked him back when they dropped Dark and Gospel with Awaken Providence.
Yes.
So yeah, he's been a huge inspiration for me for a while as well. And then Sean Harmonis from Make Them Suffer was a really big one.
Fuck yeah, I love Sean.
Insane. Yeah, insane. Never Bloom was one of the like the top albums that really got me, you know, wanting to write lyrics and, you know, going more of like a poetic way that I kind of narrate things.
Right.
And then of course Dickie Allen too. I really like the technicality of his technique. I like that he kind of pioneered tunnel vocals a little bit. Like I remember, like I like Cattle Decap and I like Travis Ryan. And then hearing a more almost modern, like kind of dialed in Travis Ryan with a little bit more of like his own unique goblin-y sort of like, you know, not scared to be harsh or, you know, going in between weird ranges and sound odd. Yeah. Like he wasn't scared to, you know, cross any of those paths. And I really love that because he wasn't in this tiny little box where it's like, you know, he had his, you know, let's say like, well, just overall.
We can go ahead. We'll go ahead and continue. And Gryffyn, leave off where you left off. I think you were just talking about like your vocal inspirations, and we left off at like Dickie Allen, and then just cut off.
Yeah, no worries, dude. No, that dude, it happens. I tried streaming for a little bit, and it turned into a terrible experience. So I know exactly how terrible it can be. Right. It kind of sucks. But yeah, vocal inspirations, Dickie Allen. Yes, he was kind of one of the first ones that kind of ventured into off territory of vocals and just kind of made more inhumane sounds, I guess, like unhuman sounds. I don't know. I can't do vocabulary, but
inhumane.
If just unhuman sort of things, which I really liked. And I know that, you know, I think that after he kind of debuted with the Elysian Galactiarchy, I think.
Yeah, the egg.
Yeah, the egg. Yeah, after they dropped that, that really set the precedent, as well as like Lugo Cayenne for Rings of Saturn. I remember that entire album was just smacked. It really changed the landscape, and I was there when it was changing things, and I kind of it was, you know, the newest, most craziest thing that caught my attention at that age, and I was super about it. I mean, shoot, Ian Bearer still inspires, you know, vocal patterns and stuff like that now, you know, because he's still very technical regarding all that.
Right.
Sorry, my dogs are going nuts in the back. Like I said, I have 7 animals, so
you can only imagine, man. It's like a little zoo over there.
Yeah, we actually legally constitute as a kennel in the state of Washington. It's kind of nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of, you know, just a little humble flex.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Then it kind of went from there. I don't know. I'd say right now, the things that like I keep in mind, the bands I listen to the most, really have been recently. It's mainly just been like Awaken Providence, God Killer. My buddy Adam, he's vocalist now.
Dude,
he did amazing on God Killer. I would say that it's kind of cool because I hear some like similarities in terms of like structuring, like vocally, that I use as well.
Right.
So that's how I know that like both me, Adam, and Greg was kind of a part of that group too. I'd say probably about like 4 years ago. About 4-ish years ago, probably more than that actually, 4 or 5. You know, we just kind of knew everyone that is kind of growing out, like even like Devin and everyone that's kind of blown up the last couple of years. Like,
for
we
real.
were all part of this like underground like Facebook like vocalist group. There was like it was like all like God, was it like pure deathcore community?
Yes.
The whole thing, before it became a massive shit show and people were getting ripped off and stuff. And everyone was part of that. We all just kind of knew each other and kind of got all inspired by the same shit at the same time. And it's kind of cool to see that we all kind of went in such different directions, but I can almost hear I can kind of hear my journey in other vocalists in the same area in that same generation.
No, for real.
It's really cool. I mean, Alex Terrible, Bender, Dickie Allen, and Will Ramos, and Sharon Harmonis. Those are like,
fuck yeah,
was that, did I just name 5? I think, I think those are mainly like my 5 guys that like I kind of think of in some, you know, shape or capacity in vocals. May it be like enunciation twists and stuff, or like like writing with patterns, or even like tonally, you know, just stuff like that. Coming up with new ideas of layers and like head voices and stuff. Those are all the people that kind of come to mind first, and then it kind of branches out after that.
No, for real. I can only imagine. And that's the craziest thing too, is no matter what type of vocalist you are, and even in the very, very specific tight-knit corners now of the deathcore community, you could be kawaii core, which is basically Brand of Sacrifice, Lucretia, which Lucretia we've had on the podcast before. They're badass.
Oh, dude, Forrest, their guitarist, he is nuts.
No, he is.
He's ridiculous. Yeah, Lucretia. Yeah, I've been loosely affiliated with mainly just Forrest and Logan Adams from Eternal Void. Like they kind of do their thing together with Faruna. I think it's a project it's called. And
okay.
Yeah, no, he's an incredible musician. They're all great people.
Yeah, and you know, you got all those corners. Like I don't even know what to fucking call like Rings of Saturn and all those like more alien themed bands, except like Alien Core or some shit. And that just sounds dumb. So just like Alien Deathcore, you got all these themes going on. You got like Pirate Core, you got fucking beat down tempo, all these just interesting niche parts of music, mainly because of their theme, but nonetheless they are their individual corners of music. No matter who you are, you have a wide variety of vocalists, and it just continues branching out like a very thick but very thin branched bush, you know what I mean? Just like a big old thistle bush, and it just continues branching out and out and out, and eventually you have a web that leads everybody to everybody. And that's like one of the coolest things about heavy counterculture and deep underground heavy counterculture. It's like my best thing about being in this community and doing stuff like the Anatomy podcast, because it's another way for all of them to connect. It's another way for all these very, very even foreign underground bands, freaking Thailand, freaking Indonesia, Malaysia. Like I'm reaching out to those places in the world, giving them a voice. And it's like, that's the coolest thing in the world, is to just be telling the story of all these various musicians. But getting back to the topic on hand, got a very, very good 5-person list as far as your vocal inspirations. I like what we're hearing here so far. And if anything, to kind of wrap up the back of the book summary for who is Gryffyn of Null Existence, who the fuck is this guy? And apparently also the vocalist for Mortem Obscurum. And like, I feel dumb because I think you friend requested me on Facebook recently. I'm like, who is this dude? Like, vocalist of Mortem Obscurum for sure. Like, that's cool. But like, who is this guy? Like, out of nowhere, he's just friending me. But I'm like, oh shit, I feel dumb because making the connection like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my other journey, I guess, as a vocalist, like, so I kind of made the professional switch, like in my occupation, to being more professional. I think in the last, like, I don't know, maybe like year and a half, I've gotten remotivated and I've kind of approached things a little bit more professionally. But beforehand, the only work I did was just vocal covers, you know, just mainly networking with other people in the scene, and just doing shitty stuff that was not good for my portfolio. And now I'm trying to actually get things going in my portfolio to kind of build up. Like the whole way I met Joey was a mutual friend, Phil Pliscota, who's actually mixing the new record. He's super good at what he does. Phil made a post about a buddy like needing a vocalist for a project, and of course there's like 14 million replies, but I still shot my shot anyways. I have a 5-track EP that is not released. I've gotten a little busy, so I haven't really put anything towards it. But Hunter Drew Spader, he was the drummer of Pry, which is a local band over in Connecticut. And then he was the guitarist of And Hellfall was with for a little bit. And I was kind of doing his own thing. I bought 5 instrumentals off of him. Basically, I was just trying to write like a concept EP. One of the songs I wrote for that was just it was kind of around the time where I actually started getting somewhat okay with my writing style in terms of placement and like I've been writing lyrics for a while, but just in terms of contextualizing vocals to music was kind of a hard process for me, because I like to overthink things, as Joey would like to tell you as well, probably. I had that, I posted that. It had very like Oceano kind of vibes. Very just cold, grimy deathcore sort of thing. I posted on the thread. he heard that, and I think like one or two other people that had posted, on that thread, and he was like, "Hey man, I really like your voice. I really like, what direction you're going. I think that you would be a good addition to the outfit for this."
Yes.
And I didn't. And as soon as he dropped, Null Existence, I was like, "Oh wait, that's Greg's other project." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well." He kind of gave me the lowdown in terms of like, just the pacing and the whole lineup stuff with that. And
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'd like to point out on that note that
yes.
when Phil made that post, there was like 75 people that commented with vocal videos and songs and stuff like that. Now, I only had 3 people try out, but I listened to many of them, probably 40, 45. And, clearly,
1 second. Sorry.
Greg.
Sorry, continue, Joey, where you left off.
Okay, so, I mean, clearly, with Greg doing the Gehenna Complex, there was pretty big shoes to fill vocally.
Yes.
Coming from that, Greg's extremely talented. And so, anybody, when this comes out, clearly our album will not be out. So just in terms of expecting, when I heard Gryffyn's vocals, I didn't need to listen to anything else. And I didn't need to, I was immediately hooked. I was so impressed that I like needed him to be in the band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Appreciate you. You're a real one.
It was kind of a breath of fresh air. And like, Gryffyn, seriously, I mean, my whole life being in the heavy music scene, I like to think I know a good vocalist when I hear one, but it's an absolute pleasure to work with Gryffyn because I think at least he's one of the best in the genre, and I think he adds so much to Null Existence music, to an extent that I didn't think it would reach.
Right. No, that's always good to hear. And okay, so real quick before we go ahead and dive into the really, really golden juicy questions, like despite all the really good ones we've been able to ask these two gentlemen so far, let's see. I don't know how I just spaced off that question. Oh yeah, okay, no, I guess I did forget the question. I do apologize. That's pretty silly on my part. But
it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, no, it's for real. I guess as we kind of dive into the other questions, and hopefully that other question will conjure itself back from the grave eventually, because that's actually pretty embarrassing. I guess my next question as we dive into the band half of the session would be, Joey, how did you end up coming up with the name for the band Null Existence?
Honestly, Gryffyn will tell you I'm terrible with names for anything.
Okay.
And
he's better than he gives himself credit for.
I just sat there for a couple days, like, what would be something cool but not cringy and something that hasn't been used before? And I kind of felt like my music has a pretty dark atmosphere to it, kind of a loneliness, you know what I mean? So I found the word, null, meaning, kind of attributing to nothingness or zero. And I think there's a lot of people can kind of relate to this in the sense of there's a lot of loneliness in our packed existence.
Yes.
A lot of people are very lonely in a crowded room and whatnot. And I feel like I kind of write my music in that type of sense, and so I felt like that name kind of just stuck, and I didn't really think of anything else, and I just thought it was cool and stuck with it, and I've actually grown to really like the name Null Existence.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty sick name, and like it might be a coincidence, it might have not been intended whatsoever. I wouldn't know because I'm not the man behind the project itself, but like even down to the logo and like the textures on the logo, it definitely did remind me of like the Shrine logo a little bit. What was that intentional?
No, but a couple people called me out on that, and I can kind of see it. I mean, not so much the newer Shrine logo, which has the nooses and the crosses.
Yeah.
And stuff in it. But I had it. The dude made it for me. That's kind of like the first, or actually the second design he came up with. I thought it was cool, but I just kind of attributed it to most deathcore logos look pretty fucking similar.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of the way it is. It wasn't intentional, but it kind of came out that way. But there's also plenty of other logos that you could stack it up next to that look similar.
Exactly. No, I'm with you on that.
You can't ever read the damn thing, so it's more of the shape and the design that looks cool.
Right.
On a shirt or something, and I thought it looked cool, so.
No, it looks really, really cool. I love the way it's textured. And I mean, shit, I had my band's logo for Blind Without Our Failures. I had that done through a gentleman by the name of Darren Baldwin. His Instagram tag is Glorious Scorification, and he's actually constantly looking for clients. So quick shout out for him. If anybody wants really, really good logos done, like he did the Enterprise Earth logo, the one that was on Luciferus. So I was very surprised to get a really good price through him for my own logo. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of get that out of the way, definitely be sure to go check him out. I'll plug him on my Instagram and on like everything because he's a really cool dude. But no, it's funny that I'm not the only one who's thought that, but I think it's like way too easy to jump to that when you had, who was the former Shrine of Malice vocalist, like on your song. It's like, oh, of course it looks like a Shrine logo. You got the X Shrine.
Yeah, that's what people said too. Like, oh, it's Greg's band, so what do you expect? And I'm like, right. Hey, I had the logo made before I'd ever even spoken to Greg.
Yeah, like seriously. So, okay, there you go. That question has been answered and has been disclaimed. Like it's not meant to copy the good old Shrine of Malice logo. And I mean, it stands out by itself. I love the way it's shaped. I love the kind of gritty texture that we got going on with the logo. Yeah, to say the least, just speaking from a calligraphy standpoint, I hope that we end up seeing like a more stretched out logo in the future. Like absolutely no pressure, but I love when bands do that as well, even if it's like pretty similar to it, but it's like Null Existence instead of Null Existence, you know what I mean? But yeah. No pressure, and don't ignore me. And I did manage to remember the question that I had for Gryffyn. So out of my freaking apparent idiocy, I did not know that you were also formerly or still the vocalist for Mortem Obscurum, right?
I'm still, yeah. We are, yeah. We're releasing the 6-song EP later on this year.
Right, there you go. So in that case, speaking on behalf of your prior vocal experience and even being a part of a project, are there any other surprise projects that you've done in the past that people can listen back on preparing for what is going to be the first full length for Null Existence?
To answer that question, I mean, the way that previous releases came out, I mean, the only other one that I have documented is Moon Presence. I did that with a buddy, Darian Darlami, and it was kind of odd because there was a couple songs where because we were, we kind of doing like an Angel Maker thing, 2 vocalist kind of project. We had a couple songs where we were together, and then I was going through some personal difficulties with life and profession and work and stuff like that. So I was trying to work with someone who should not be named with another project. I put a lot of money in, put a lot of time in, and I got burned. So I kind of hit a huge burnout. So not all of Moon Presence's releases have both me and Darian in full swing, but I mean, it was 2019, I'm pretty sure. So Daughter of the Cosmos, it's a Bloodborne based project because I mean I'm a big FromSoft fan.
Okay.
Even Elden Ring, I've had some time to play that and it's been nice. I actually if you all know a little fun fact, the first single for Null Existence is based off of Elden Ring before it released because I'm kind of a lore slut a little bit. So I was trying to brainstorm some ideas for the concept of the album. And I think coming into that like Mortal Redemption sort of vibe, or just like the like the overcoming tribulation sort of feeling and inspiration kind of came to mind a little bit.
Yes.
And then, you know, I don't know. Elden Ring was one of the coolest things I've been hyped for a while. So about this time, I knew it was about to come up. It was a couple months ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna write about the lore that I know about now. And so I basically kind of made a story applying to myself and towards like, I guess, like the lore and the concept of the album, but applied it in there's some verbiage in there from the game.
Okay.
But yeah, if that gives you an idea of how much of a FromSoft fanboy that I am.
Right.
Yeah, Bloodborne past project, and then first single Null Existence is going to be loosely based around Elden Ring.
Oh, okay. And at that, I would have to ask then. So basically, the single that we have yet to hear as your debut for the being the vocalist of fucking Null Existence. There we go. That's a way to shorten that. Could you say that this single is a good back of the book summary for what is going to be your first full length with Null Existence? Because that's kind of the vibe here that I'm getting from what you're saying.
There is so in the song, it holds like the same, you know, personality and atmosphere and all of that. Like the writing style is very similar.
Yes.
But I'd like to think that that song is a little bit more tame in terms of other ones that are being written.
Okay.
I know that the second song that we plan on releasing as the second single, which we were actually debating on putting this one first,
right,
has a lot more going on, and the intensity and the structuring is a little bit different too.
Right.
So yeah, I think a good summary of it is that it's kind of just a taste.
Okay. Right. And like that's usually what a good single is. It's just like, this is just an appetizer. You have yet to enjoy the full meal. You gotta wait a little bit to have that full entree, okay, bud? Like that's kind of a good way to cook up a single. Is just have it be an appetizer, have it be a little snack. Because if you give them a full meal, then they're like, oh, where's the rest of the feast, man? You're like, well, you just had the feast, so get over it, grow up, like, you know, just get all salty.
Well, it's like you're gonna be getting something else a little bit different later on in the line.
Yeah, know? Exactly.
It works out that way well too, because that song is really the only song that's like it is fairly tame compared to the rest of the record. The song definitely kind of stands out as it's much more of a just like fast-paced, aggressive song. Not so much encompassing the full sound of what the full length is going to be. So it works out well that way.
Okay, sick. And I mean, by all means, I'm very excited to be hearing this first full length from Null Existence, contributed and just forged in the deep depths of the Null Existence, and like, you know, per se in the Gehenna Complex by good old Gryffyn and Joey Hancock here. And to kind of like get a more direct answer, what would be a good release for listeners to look back on, to prepare for this, at least vocally speaking? Like, do you think that, Gryffyn, that compared to releases before, that this is like, that shit was nothing before? Like this is the big games, or
this is a totally different beast? Yeah.
Okay.
I think that in terms of like intensity and vocal pattern wise, and even tonality, I think that especially my high register, I definitely have changed tonally a lot.
Okay.
Comparatively to my past works.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And let's see, for the sake of kind of prying as much as I can, whilst also being polite and respectful of privacy and all that, speaking on behalf of this first full-length record, are you guys planning on collaborating with anybody and having any features on, or is this going to be an all just Null Existence full-length album?
You know,
do you have even plans for that?
To be kind of figured out. I kind of liked the idea originally of just having it be strictly Null Existence, because I always think that's kind of badass when a vocalist can carry throughout from beginning to end and be interesting and
right.
fun. But at the same time, I also see the beauty in bringing in other entities, and sometimes it can really be very beneficial to the song. So that's kind of something we've been discussing, but haven't really set anything in stone yet.
Okay, interesting. And for all of, you know, just for the sake of throwing them the scraps and throwing them the crumbs, is this debut full length for Null Existence going to have any cleans on it?
No.
No cleans. Okay.
Well, so I mean, there's
some weird lo-fi parts.
There's
interesting.
There's like there's no clean singing. I mean, there's this I don't know. There's like some like kind of like whispers and gravelly like talking stuff, almost kind of like a
spoken
light
word.
black metal. Yeah, a little bit more spoken word stuff too, but nothing clean though.
Okay. Well, there you have it for all the elitists who happen to be subscribed to my channel or follow the podcast. Eat your freaking heart out. No cleans on this record. No cleans on the first Null Existence full length. Because, I mean, by all means, being that I'm planning on contributing to a band in which basically, think of it like a black and deathcore version of Make Them Suffer While She Sleeps and even Silent Planet, I guess, which is very weird. But also like James from Shrine, when I was planning to work with him, he's like, okay, so blackened, tough, but ambient. Like those are all very, very good descriptions. So it's like all the statuses I've seen online, people are just like, no cleans and deathcore. I'm like, well, then you're not going to like my shit. Oh, well, tough shit. Goodbye. Like, like sometimes you have to have that attitude with the more progressive sound. But, you know, plenty of bands, including Null Existence here, who are more than willing to kind of stick to that formula, but extend where they can, which is really, really cool to hear. So with that being said, let's see, roughly, obviously this is probably very early stages. And I think we got our answer earlier from Gryffyn here. The fact that because of both your schedules, you guys are more or less thinking this full length might be coming out sometime next year. What can you give us on updates with that? Because I'm sure that there is already a good following behind Null Existence, and they are hungry for information.
No, we're pretty. I mean, life happens. We're both pretty understanding of like life happens. Not everything goes as planned.
Yes,
but we're on a pretty good track to have the record completely done and ready to release by this year. I really don't want to go a whole lot longer than that, just because we live in a day and age where people's attention span is not very long. And
yeah,
you know, there's still a little bit of hype from when the EP came out, you know, and we want to be able to, you know, use that to our advantage. You know, we don't want to, you know, be a year or two later to be dropping something, you know.
Yeah.
We're pretty motivated, you know, but at the same time, we're not rushing things. We want it to be really solid, but you know, we're still pretty proficient in getting things done.
Right. I mean, you got to take your time for the fruit to be ripe. You can't just rush into, like, good analogy would be a banana, I guess. Like breaking it down to one fruit. Like if you get a banana and you immediately open it, it's like, it's rough. It's almost like it's almost got like a, I don't even know, just a strange texture. And then you're like, oh, this is even banana. It's not that soft. You got to wait a little bit for the fruit to ripen. So naturally, people, that would be the best answer we have for that question. And with that being said, it is currently 9:43 p.m. This was episode 23 of the Anatomy podcast featuring Joey Hancock and Gryffyn from Null Existence. As soon as they give me the go to green, I will be uploading this beast to my YouTube channel and on Spotify. All streaming platforms will be applicable. And I will most likely, now that we are streaming and distributing my podcast episodes through Anchor for free, which is awesome for every podcaster out there. If you like shit, if you two gentlemen want to start a podcast today and make it about something, you can through Anchor. And, you know, I make it sound like I'm sponsored, but no, like, disclaimer, I'm not, but that is like actually the coolest thing ever, because I had been paying more than like $100 a year to distribute episodes that were maybe listened to by like 4 different people worldwide. So it's been really nice to migrate my podcast episodes over from Podbean to Anchor. If you guys want to start a podcast, anybody listening, be sure to go check that out. You basically just have to sign up with your email, have a Spotify account, and boom, bada bang. That's actually the only thing you need. That and probably Zoom, probably fucking Reaper. That way you can convert your files to MP3, because that's a life hack. Shout out to that. And the Archaic Epidemic for telling me how to do that. But this has been the Anatomy Podcast. This has been Null Existence, episode 23. Stay tuned for, I mean, hell, I would love to jump on board with you guys once you guys are ready to release your next single. And like, let's all react to this. Like, let's all have a live reaction to this new single and just kind of enjoy time together and just hang out and discuss what's going on with the new single. And otherwise, do you guys have anything else you want to shout out or promote?
I mean, other than, you know, Mortem Skirm's new single coming out. Well, it's going to be already out by the time this is released, but
Right.
Yeah, May 8th. And then following single is probably going to be somewhere in July. We don't know yet. You know, Mike Love and Fury's mixing it. It's been super fun. I like to call it death metal for deathcore kids.
Right.
Because it's very fast paced, but also has like the tonality that we all look for, I think, in deathcore. So
Right.
yeah, that's the only thing I got shouting out. I know that Joey has another project. I think that they're still undergoing some changes for branding, but I don't know if he wants to speak on that one.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in like 4 other projects, but yeah, nothing really to report on yet. We had a name issue pop up with the other group that I'm doing with on Malice of Spire of Lazarus, and we had our video done, our all of our stuff was done and ready to release April 22nd, and then to find out, somebody let us know there's a fairly successful band that was sharing the same name as us, so we had to redo everything. But that time will come to push that stuff. The only thing I want to say in regards to anything is, for anybody that enjoyed the Gehenna Complex, you know, I wrote those 3 songs I wrote in a month after like only a year or so of getting back into music. This album is like a year and 9 months in the making. The music's all done for it, but it is musically a very large step forward from the Gehenna Complex. There's a lot more complexity in it. The breakdowns are, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but the breakdowns are pretty fucking ridiculous.
Sick.
You know, a lot more lead stuff, a lot more you know, guitar work in general. And
yeah.
The drumming is going to be a massive step up as well, as we have some help in that area from someone who is not to be named at this time.
Right. Okay, sweet. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for our next episode. Unfortunately, I never know when the next, like who or when the next band will be, because of my chaotic schedule and the schedules of bands worldwide as we speak, just dealing with their own lives. So we will get back to doing the Anatomy podcast as soon as possible. And shit, this might be episode 24. This might be episode 25. Who knows? We'll let you know, and you know, it will be up eventually. Thank you for your time though, and have a great night.